We are back again with another transition story where we are having a discussion with Suryanshu, who had a Bachelor of Commerce or BCom degree, and then he followed step-by-step approach, and right now he's working in a data science slash data analytics role at a big multinational data analytics firm. In this video, he's going to share his entire journey, and towards the end, he's going to share some actionable, solid advice for people who want to transition from BCom to data analytics and data science. Without further ado, let's start the conversation. So Suryanshu, thanks for having time for this conversation.
Thank you, Dhaval, for having me here.
All right, let's start with the first question, which is, what is your current role and what do you do and what kind of tools do you use in your job?
Sure. So I'm actually working as a senior consultant, presently for a boutique analytics consulting firm. I've only very recently joined here. And before this, I was actually working for the captive unit of a UK-based telecom company. In both these roles, I've essentially played the role of a consultant, understanding the requirement of the client, and then making sure I build a data science use case around that requirement, going back to the technology team, working with them, working hands-on wherever required to deliver on those requirements end to end. So that has been an overview of my role. If I talk about the tools and technologies that I have primarily worked with, so I've mostly worked with R and SQL. So those are the tools and technologies that I have worked with. Python, not so much, but I'm more towards R and statistical sort of those side of things. Yeah.
Nice. Now, I get many questions from my viewers that they have a Bachelor of Commerce background and if they can join data analytics or data science field at all, because most of the time companies are asking for Bachelor in Computer Science degree, etc. So this is the argument that they make. And it's interesting enough that you yourself have a BCom degree. And now here you're working in a big data analytics company doing some amazing work. So people would be interested in knowing your journey. So let's start with your background. So let's discuss about your educational background and then how you got interested in learning data analytics.
Absolutely. And I think it is really important for people, especially from other backgrounds, who are not working directly in the STEM area and who are interested in data science, to understand their motivations in terms of why they want to get into the area and is it even possible for them to enter this field. I think sort of my example would serve, as sort of an example to other people where they are able to understand that they can also, being a BCom is not a limitation. In fact, I really think that it is an advantage because coming from a commerce background, you're much more familiar with business terminology and you're able to match the expectation of what your stakeholder wants using that business terminology and using that background in business knowledge. So I actually started off as a BCom in Delhi University. After completing my BCom, I was quite clueless in terms of what to do next. So I ended up doing a couple of internships after my graduation. A couple of them were in marketing, and then marketing was something that sort of appealed to me. But I could not really sort of build a lot within the area of marketing. I felt that something was missing. So that is when I actually planned to go for an MBA. Now, while I was doing my MBA, I was introduced to the area of data sciences. And by happenstance, what had happened was we actually have an internship, right, between the first year and second year of MBA. So I was working for a very large auto company, and the project that I had was to do market research with tire dealers and understand the customers' preferences. I collected a lot of data, like maybe about 300 people and then 100 odd tire retailers going in the sun and just, taking a questionnaire and taking all that data. But at the end of it, I realized that after collecting so much data, I'm pretty much, I don't understand how to analyze that. So I ended up going to one of the resident data analysts, that I knew in my batch. And he sort of told me that it's actually quite easy if you know how to use Excel, if you know how to use R, and you can develop statistical models, etc. And he guided me on that project. So with that first flavor of what R was about, I actually chose IT as my minor in the second year. I ended up choosing big data and data sciences as a subject, and got introduced to it and ended up liking it a lot. So while I was placed in my first company, in the telecom company, I actually got the chance, a project to work in the area of data analytics. And that is where I actually used that opportunity to sort of use my newfound knowledge and skills in R. So essentially, like, it was about capitalizing on the opportunities available. And from there on, I ended up doing one project, the second work project, which was related to natural language processing. I had no idea what NLP was. So I ended up just saying that, yes, I'll be able to do it. And then I ended up learning NLP, in my free time while I was not working. And that ended up executing that project as well. And then, of course, that process went on for a while, and I ended up sort of, doing a couple of more projects. So I would say that my journey has been one of discovery, where I have discovered the process of how to learn data science, along with like how I can use it in my work to my benefit, essentially. And it is only through work projects that I have sort of learned data science. Yeah.
And being a BCom background, I think in BCom also, when they are doing projects, they must be using Excel, correct? Like any BCom graduates, when they're doing their projects during their studies, Excel is a basic tool that they will be teaching or they will be learning and using it during their project. Is that the correct assumption?
Yeah, so especially for finance folks, I think Excel in terms of valuation, etc., those sort of exercises is used a lot. But what ends up happening is there's a sort of cocoon of finance professionals who are only using Excel, but they consider coding as not part of that domain. But I think what's important to understand here is that whether it is Excel, whether it is R, even if you're doing VBA, whatever it is only a tool to achieve a goal, right? So it's not about learning R or Python, I think. It's about knowing what is important to execute the project or the work that you're doing. So if that involves learning, a new language that can help you achieve your goal, then I think you should not have that blocker that, only because I'm in, the finance area, I'll only use Excel, or I'll only use R, or I'll only use Python. So I think once we get rid of those boundaries that we have, I think it's much better thinking as the end result and not the tool and not the technology that we're using.
Got it. All right, Suryanshu. So you made a very good point that a person should not be tied to a tool, rather use your problem solving ability and then use tool to solve a given problem. And the good news nowadays is that with internet, you find so many learning resources for free. You have tons of YouTube tutorials, tons of websites, many e-learning platforms where you can buy a course for 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. My own website, codebasics.io, we have SQL, Python. I'm launching Excel course, by the way. These courses are available at like less than 1,000 rupees. So you buy the course and you can learn these things pretty quickly and then apply those skills in your current project, right? That should be you agree, like that should be the approach that anyone should take?
So I think for me, what learning has been essentially like a part of it has been structured learning, where I've actually used courses from Udemy and I've learned a lot. And professionals like you as well, I've followed their courses and understood like how it works. Now, the other part of it is the unstructured learning bit, where I want to learn sort of how to apply those basics to my particular context. That is something I think that comes a lot with practical work projects. If you don't have work projects currently lined up, maybe it would come through platforms like Kaggle. But I really think that applying those learnings is really important. So whereas structured learning courses would definitely be the first step, the next step I think definitely should be to apply those learnings wherever possible. Because for me, the real learning has been how do I, and then put it on Google. How do I like change the date format on Excel? Very simple. How do I, do something? How do I create a for loop? So you go through Stack Overflow, you go through, different lines of code that other people have written. I think, and then you apply that to your particular context, and that's how you sort of learn and unlearn basically what your current understanding is. And obviously, learning is never complete. So it's a cycle. And once you think you've learned one particular tool, another one will come into the market. So I think it's important to develop a process rather than just saying that, I'll complete this particular course and I'm done. It's important to understand it is a learning process, I think. For me, if I name some tools, I think I've followed a lot of courses on Udemy just as a starter. But what has been really helpful has been DataCamp because I came from a non-coding background. And DataCamp was like a very hands-on tool in terms of, letting you sort of play with the code as well as giving you hints at the right time. So DataCamp was very helpful for me. Yeah.
Got it. You mentioned a very good point that learning should be an endless process. People ask me this question, can I learn data analytics in 3 months? I'm like, yes, you can learn the basics, but then it's just a continuous process. And you can use all the resources which are available for free. Stack Overflow, you mentioned Google. I want to mention one more, which is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is super powerful. So yesterday I was, writing some code and then also trying some formula in Excel. And I asked that question to ChatGPT. It was a pretty complex question. And ChatGPT gave me a pretty damn accurate solution. So if people use tools like ChatGPT, Google, Stack Overflow to their benefit, they can almost become like cyborgs. They have this additional capacity. They got this second brain almost. And you can use that additional brain that you have and just boost your productivity and boost your career to a next level. All right. So just to summarize your journey so far, you came from BCom background. You collected a lot of data during your internship at the big automaker in India. And when you were collecting this data, you realized there is a scope of data analytics, data science. Okay. So if someone who is from BCom background and hearing this conversation, if you're working on any industry project, think about this. Wherever there is data, there is a scope of data science and data analytics. So in your current work, if you're getting any sort of data, start thinking from that standpoint. Can I use Excel? Can I use R? Can I use Power BI, Tableau, or to do some data visualization, data analytics? And that's the true beginning of your journey. It's not like, getting registered into some 6-month boot camp, etc. That is the true beginning of your journey. And you had that same journey. And then you did this DataCamp courses, Udemy courses, etc. And you learned all the skills. So let's discuss now. You have learned all the skills. What was your first interview call? When did you get your first job opportunities in the field of data analytics and data science?
So to be honest, after my MBA, I was placed into my first organization. It was more of a generalistic role where I was placed as a management trainee. As management trainees, of course, it's more about exploring what you would do next, what would be the domain that would be more suitable for you, depending on what sort of projects you execute within the organization and what sort of areas of interest you are and what are the area of strength you are able to demonstrate. For me, I was fortunate enough that there was a project available related to data analytics. It was not hands-on at that point. It was more of a project management side of things, like managing people who are actually working on a data analytics project. And that actually gave me a good flavor of how things work in an organization. Of course, we do a lot of coding, etc. ourselves as well, and we think that we've learned our data sciences. But navigating through people, processes, and the existing tools that organizations have, it's a very large and practical part of what someone would be doing on a day-to-day basis. So that is what I learned there. And then when I got the confidence that I can actually do one myself, I was able to actually go to my manager and say that, look, I find an opportunity in this particular space, which was in HR analytics. I did a project. And I think that I can really contribute here because I've been learning through Data Camp the last 6 months. And I think that there is an opportunity for us to capitalize. That was the way that I sort of, got about getting that first project. It was essentially analyzing the comments that employees essentially give as part of their grievances. So a lot of times there are thousands and thousands of comments that someone has to go through to understand, what the voice of employee is. But I was able to use things like topic modeling, latent direct allocation, and collate that into 4 or 5 different stories and present it as a project to the HR director. And that is how essentially it started. And one project led to another. And then eventually I got more interested in going from a hands-on role to a role where I'm able to mix both sides, where I'm able to understand the requirements of the client, understand what would actually work well in which particular scenario, and then bring together people, organize people in such a way that that project is delivered. So I moved more towards the consulting side of things because I realized, given my background with BCom and MBA, that is probably a much more better fit for me. So I think it's also important for people coming from a non-technical background to understand that, to have certain self-awareness in terms of how much they are willing to invest on the technical side of things. If you are going to make 100% switch, you should know what that would entail from a technical perspective. However, if you are okay to sort of explore a mix of the technical side of things and a sort of a techno-functional side of things, then you can obviously explore, career opportunities in any of the areas. And I think a lot of people sort of look at job titles as their next career step. So I want to become a data scientist today becomes I want to become a data engineer, which is the next hot thing. But I think it's not about that. I think it's more about matching your strengths to the industry. You're obviously riding a wave, but at the same time, it should be aligned to your strengths so that you're able to capitalize on that. So try and spend some more time identifying what your current strengths are, and then identify career opportunities that are aligned to those strengths. And I'm 100% sure that you'll be able to find an opportunity in the space that, suits you. So that is what I'll say.
That's a very insightful point. You said it rightly. People are always impressed by these titles, data scientists. They just want to become data scientists, but they don't look at their current background, their even own interest. Maybe they will become data scientists after a lot of hard work and they might not enjoy that work. So being in this kind of role where you are, where majority is functional and then there is small component of technical work as well, that can be the perfect match. And that is the way you can compete with, I think, people from STEM background. Let's say there is a computer engineer. They will have 100% technical knowledge. They don't have functional knowledge. But you being from BCom background, you have so much functional knowledge. So why don't you use your strength and then play your game accordingly?
I had 2 more points. I think you can edit those if they are required. You can sort of add those. Good examples, I think, that you might be able to use. One is that on the other side of things, you also have, for example, you're working in a functional area, right? Mm-hmm. How do I use these tools and technologies to actually become more productive at what I do? So, for example, I know someone who is an equity analyst, right? They analyze a lot of company information. And just to be able to sort of sift through all that information and be productive at what they are doing, they're actually learning Python pandas basically as a skill, as something on top of their current skill set to be able to deal with all that data, all that complexity. So there is that side of story as well, where you are actually using, any one of the skills or tools of data science to become better at what you're doing currently, like the example of chat GPT that you gave. So it's not just about saying that, whatever I am today, I'll just leave it and switch to data sciences. Maybe you'll find that learning a new tool would be helpful in what you're doing today. So that practical application of what you are learning is, I think, very important, because ultimately it is an investment of your time, of your money as well. So think about how you will get a return on that investment rather than just following the crowd, I would say. That is the first point. The second point, I think, is there are a lot of courses available on the market, right? A lot of them are free. A lot of them are quite decently priced. But a lot of them are, I would say, you need to pay a lot for them, right? To be able to get that particular degree or postgraduate diploma that sort of, in your opinion, like gives you, a foot in the door in the industry. So I would say that think of that as a return on investment. You are actually spending your time, your money, and then, you need to, before you invest that 1,50,000 or 4 lakh rupees into a particular course, you need to first look at the alternatives available. Is there quality education available at a much more lower cost than what you're going to learn? And secondly, if you are not able to capitalize on a job opportunity of the level that you thought, then you would not get the returns that you are sort of, hoping for. So think of it as an investment and make a wise decision, because every time people ask me, should I do this particular postgraduate course? I ask them, why do you want to do this? Have you exhausted all opportunities that are available? And especially people in the BCom, like someone who's not coming from that background, maybe someone who is from a computer science background would not require that on their resume. So that is a big motivator for people, right? That, let me do this particular course. I am a BCom, but this will sort of propel me towards that direction. So I really think that a lot of employers, quality employers, also look at what sort of self-learning you have done. So rather than, being enrolled into a course, which is frankly quite easy, all you need to do is pay money and everyone will enroll you into the course, right? So what is the sort of self-learning you have done? What is the sort of projects that you have worked on? Have you worked on certain Kaggle projects yourself, or have you worked on work projects? Have you found opportunities in your area, that sort of align with your interest in data sciences? If you've done that, then you don't really need to spend so much money on courses. There are cheaper alternatives available. So make sure you take a wise decision is what I would say.
Your point is very right, because I myself take interviews of data analysts and data scientists, and I never pay attention to, what kind of 6-month boot camp you have done and what kind of certificate you have, because getting certificate is very easy. So certificates do not hold any value in my opinion. Obviously, it shows that you have done some learning, but it doesn't add any credibility, because you can just watch videos, you can fast forward the videos and just finish and give like 2 or 3 tries in the exam and get the certificate. We run some project challenges on codebasics.io, and these are called like resume project challenges, where I have seen people from chartered accountant background, BCom background, mechanical engineering background, they participate in these projects, and then we suggest them to build online credibility by sharing the learning on LinkedIn, etc. And recently I have received some messages that by showcasing that project experience in their resume, and by showcasing that those projects during the interview, because that project is available on NoviPro on some website, or you have a LinkedIn post. So in the interview, one guy reached out to me recently, and he literally, I think 40 minutes out of 1 hour interview was on that project. And then he showed that project, etc. And he got a job. So that way, you're not making just some false claims that I have this certificate versus that certificate. You're actually showcasing your project. If you win, let's say, resume project challenge, that shows some credibility, that winning a challenge where, 1,000 people are participating is not easy. So you're very right that many people make this mistake. They enroll into heavy, expensive courses and then they regret later on. Sometimes they realize that this is not I should be doing, and now they have wasted so much of their money. So they should start lean, use like free resources, use resources which are not very expensive, and focus more on building credibility in your resume, building online credibility, and that could be a gateway into a data science. So I think my last question was, do you have any advice for a person who is from BCom degree and they want to make a career as a data analyst or data scientist? I think we already covered few aspects of the answer that you would give. But is there any other advice? Let's say right now, I'm pretty sure just by by looking at the thumbnail, many people who are from BCom background, they would be watching this video right now. So what other advice that you have other than whatever you have covered already?
So I think one of them, I'll try and summarize that as well. First is never underestimate your background, right? Like you could be from a BCom background. It's not that you are, from an inferior sort of background where your background is not going to help you in a data science world. In fact, you should think of that as a diverse advantage that you have that other people who are from STEM backgrounds might not be able to bring to the table. The second part is that if you've decided that you want to take part in the data science journey, understand your motivations, why you're doing that. It's really important for us to understand like why we want to pursue something. For me, it was quite organic as a discovery, as I said. But why do you want to sort of focus on data sciences or making the switch to data sciences, as it were? The third thing is, I think it's a function of time as well. The more time you put into it, the more number of hours you put into it, in a way you will get better at it. So obviously, don't think of, that you'll become a data analyst or a data scientist in 3 months. For you, for someone, it might take 3 months. For other people, it takes, let's say, 6 months. For someone else, it might take 1 year. If you have that commitment towards the field, towards the area that you have committed yourself to, you will get there. All you need to do is put in the efforts and then take the right steps. In fact, playing the right steps means that you're going to take 2 steps back and then 1 step in front. So you are going to be making a lot of mistakes, as I did. So no one's career essentially is like a walk in the park. You obviously have a lot of setbacks as well. And like everyone, you will probably face that too. So don't get disheartened. Just continue on the journey and you will reach, the area that you want. I very recently saw someone's WhatsApp status message where someone was holding a placard. And, they said that you are where you thought you would be in 5 years. So just think about 5 years back, the, objectives and goals that you have, where you are today, probably you've achieved already those. So, just think about this as a journey. And I would say just continue to work hard and you will get where you want to be.
Amazing insights indeed. So Suryanshu, I think that was my last question. Thanks for spending your time and thanks for sharing your experience with the people.
Thanks for having me, Dhaval. Thanks.
All right, awesome. So we're going to provide Suryanshu's LinkedIn profile in the video description, and we wish you all the best. I have many other videos on my channel where we have interviewed other people as well from different backgrounds, mechanical engineering, BCom, who have transitioned to their journey. So we're going to provide a link of that playlist so you can watch those videos as well and learn from the experiences of those folks. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.